What's up? Let me bring up, I have a little notepad here. And these are the codecs that I use is Lagarith, lossless codec, and H.264 codec. Now the Lagarith one is no compression, and I'll show you how I use that. And of course the H.264 is pretty standard. Most people use that is a compression codec. The software that I use is, right now I'm using Fraps. I have used Mirillis. They're both good. And obviously Fraps it records in AVI format, file format. Mirillis, you can do AVI or MP4. I never use MP4 to record with, because of the obvious that it compresses, and it whatever it does, I don't know exactly how it filters, but it just, like I was saying earlier, that I was unsatisfied with the results of the video quality. So I use Sony Vegas Pro, and I render with AVI and the Lagarith codec. And then the final step, I use Handbrake software, and I actually do compress with MP4 and H.264 codec. I'll leave links in the description where you can download the codecs, by the way. So let's start with, well, I'm not really going to get into the recording software because it doesn't really pertain to what I'm talking about here. But basically what I do is I use 60 frames per second on most videos. You can use 30, that's fine. And I use Fraps right now, and AVI, of course. Let's bring up Sony Vegas Pro, and I've already moved in a file here as an example. This is Wolfenstein: The New Order. It's about a 12-minute, a little over 12-minute video, and if you look at the properties here, I have it at 60 frames per second, 1920 by 1080. That's really all I want to talk about on that part. That pertains to this, what I'm doing here. So after you're done editing your video, you're going to do render as. And in this example, since it's 60 frames per second, I use AVI, and that's all I ever use as far as the output file format. I use AVI HD 1080p or 1080 24p is what I use. And if you look at the template on here, this is really important part, is the video format is Lagarith lossless codec. That's what I use. So once you install that codec, it should show up here in Sony Vegas Pro under or next to video format. And of course, frame rate is 60, 1920 by 1080, same thing. And let's see, that's about all that is as far as what we're doing here. So it's going to render in AVI format, and it's not going to be compressed. So let's look at the file size after I rendered it. Let me go ahead and minimize that. And that particular file is 73.1 gigabytes. That's huge. You know, of course, you couldn't upload that to YouTube. But we're not going to, so that'll be the next step. I'll be talking about that in a minute. And it's 12 minutes and 52 seconds long, that video. If you look at the properties, you can see it's 60 frames, 1920 by 1080, and of course the bitrate is like humongous. What is that? Forget it, 3138078 kilobytes per second. So that leads us to the next step. So after we render that file, bring up Handbrake. And I've been using Handbrake for a while, and it works fine for me. So I'm going to bring in that file right here into Handbrake. And let's see, I have my own profile settings, so I'm going to click that, and I'll show you what I do here is if we go to, let's see, I don't change anything in picture, I don't change anything in filters, but under video I have the advanced tab checked, and if we go to the advanced tab, you can see what settings I have here. You can pause the video if you want to look at those. most of them, or some of them, are default, but some of them I have changed according to a lot of research I did. Under the audio tab, I have 128. That's all what I really changed. You can change it if you want to something else. Back to video tab, you can see I have the MP4 container. That's the file format. And the video codec is H.264. And I have it set at 60 frames per second for this game, this video. And I have it at constant frame rate. Then over to quality. Now this depends on, you know, what kind of computer you have, how powerful it is, how fast your internet is. This is gonna affect your file size and your bitrate. I usually try to keep my this part here. I try to keep my bitrate after running Handbrake and compressing a file to under 10,000 kilobytes per second. But that's for me, because I have DSL and I get about 12 megabits down and 1 megabit up. Now, if you have high broadband speed internet, like, you know, whatever, Comcast, whatever, obviously you can go higher than 10,000. So what I do is I have my quality set at for like 60 frames per second. In a high resolution game like Wolfenstein, I usually have it between 20 and 23, and that'll usually keep it on under 10,000 kilobits, and it'll keep the file size under a gigabyte. So that works for me. If you have, let's say, if you're doing a tutorial or anything else that uses less graphics, you know, aside from newer games, you probably can go down to 18 if you want. 0 would be lossless. That would be basically just like the 71 gigabytes uncompressed. Obviously, you can't upload that. So for me, I go anywhere between 18 and 23, and that works pretty good for me. I also have web optimized checked, and I believe that's pretty much it as far as the settings in Handbrake. And then I'll go ahead and start that. Then let's go back to, let's see what the file looks like after I compressed it with Handbrake. And this is it right here. And look at this. It went from 71 gigabytes to 832 megabytes. Unbelievable. That's less than a gigabyte. And let's look at the properties, or the details. 1920 by 1080, 60 frames per second, and 8,827 kilobytes per second. So I kept it under 10. And so I think that's pretty much it. See you next time. Bye-bye.